It's how I purposely got pregnant so my boyfriend wouldn't leave our relationship. Well, leave me. So I've been with my boyfriend for 6 years and we started dating since we were both 19. When it came to the relationship, I was more so the breadwinner. I paid most of the dates and I was there for him emotionally. I would invest hundreds of dollars into his business ideas that failed, unfortunately. We even got an apartment, and at one point I was working, going to school, and paying for all of the bills, cooking, cleaning, and I never asked anything of him because I didn't want him to see me as a gold digger. And he would spend time playing video games and working on his rap music. It wasn't the best, but I believed in his dream. So I basically took care of him. A couple years later, his grandfather passed and left him $500,000 in his will. And at the time, he started to get really distant. He was using that money and never spent any on me. I expressed my concern, and he said that he was done with the relationship. And from that moment, I lied and said I was pregnant. If you want to know what happened, this is part 2 of how I purposely got pregnant so my boyfriend wouldn't leave our relationship. So, like I said, he was given $500,000 from his grandpa's will and wanted to leave me. So I lied and said I was pregnant. Now, I wasn't upset that he wouldn't give me part of the money. I always had my own money, and quite frankly, most of it would go to him. I was just hurt because I sacrificed and invested so much into this man to prosper, and once he was financially stable, he wanted to leave me. Now, at this time, I wasn't physically pregnant. I lied. Now, when he found out, he stayed with me, and I stopped taking birth control. So, literally, within 3 weeks later, I got pregnant. And even though he was with me, he wasn't really with me. He really didn't come to none of the appointments and wouldn't check up on me. He became mean and started cheating on me. There's more to the story. Come back for part 3. This is part 3 of how I purposely got pregnant so my boyfriend wouldn't leave our relationship. So, like I said before, I got pregnant and then he started to act really distant and he cheated on me. He told me he wanted to leave the relationship multiple times, but then again, his actions showed different because he'd always come around and did things that people in relationships would do. And around this time, money started to get tight. I would ask him if he could pay for certain things, and he would refuse and then started to say I was only with him for money. But what was crazy to me is that most of the relationship, he had nothing, and I was the one working. And still, when I was pregnant, I was the one working. And with the money he had got, he would buy himself nice clothes, got himself a car, and the girl he was cheating on me with, he bought her the most expensive clothes. And I wanted the relationship so bad that I allowed him to have side chicks. I never asked him questions, and he still never wanted me. A week before the baby's due date, he completely left me and went with the girl he was cheating on me with. If you want to know what I did after that, this is part 4 of how I purposely got pregnant so my boyfriend wouldn't leave our relationship. So a week before the baby's due date, he completely left me. I was devastated. I became depressed, suicidal. And because I was so stressed, the doctor said that I needed to calm down because my blood pressure started to get super high and that would be good for me or the baby. After the baby was born, he came around to see the baby. At some points, he tricked me into thinking we were getting back together, and once he had slept with me, he'd leave again and go back to the other girl. I tried to tell his new girlfriend about it, but she didn't believe me and called me crazy. I'd always see him make posts about her, spoil her, and everything. After 2 years, I got a therapist because I started to get anxiety attacks. And I found out I was codependent and I had abandonment issues due to my father not being there for me, and I was afraid of being alone and a man not truly loving me. And I allowed someone to treat me horrible because I didn't want to be alone. Regardless, no girl should have gone through what I did. All girls should love and put themselves first. This story time is how my house caught on fire the night before Christmas. By the way, I was 9 at the time. So, like always, everyone wrapped their gifts and put it underneath the Christmas tree. And I can remember that year, my parents really went all out for Christmas. They decorated all around the house and inside. My mom went as far as putting lights all over the railings. There were many gifts under the tree, and I seen that most were for me, and I was really excited. By the way, I'm the only child, but my cousins were going to come over also. So there were gifts for them too. After everything was decorated, my mom cooked the night before and everyone went to sleep. In the middle of the night, I get shaken by my dad telling me that we need to get out of the house. I was so confused until I walked outside of my room and the whole second floor was smoking. When we ran downstairs, my living room and kitchen was on fire and it was so traumatizing to see. And I'll explain why my house caught on fire in part 2. So come back for part 2. This is part 2 of how my house caught on fire the night before Christmas. So, like I said before, I was woken up in the middle of the night by my dad telling me that we needed to get out of the house. And the first floor was in flames, but we managed to make it out. When we left, we immediately went to my grandma's house. I asked my parents, why did our house catch on fire? And my grandma sent me away to go play in her indoor porch. I was upset because all the presents were gone and I was pretty sure my bedroom was destroyed. When I was sitting in the porch, I overheard the adults' conversation. And remember how I told you guys my parents went all out with decorations? Well, something happened to one of the Christmas lights cables and it caught on fire and it spread all throughout the house. I was upset, of course, but good thing my dad was up. If not, we probably all would have been burnt in our sleep. Anyways, happy holidays. Story time of how my parents forced me to marry a 40-year-old man when I was 14.
When I was about 10, there was this girl at school whose parent was a teacher at the same school. The girl was 2 years below me, but that did not stop her from thinking she was Queen Bee. Oh shit, my bad. She was a complete bitch and thought that she can get away with anything just because her mom was a teacher. She would throw tantrums if she didn't get her way and everybody hated her. So it was sports day and I had just taken part in some small sport like throwing a beanbag through a hoop. Boy, was I pooped. So I went to get a drink. I'm there waiting in line to get me some sweet water when the girl stands in line behind me. She's telling me how bad I'm doing and generally being bitchy. I got to the front of the line, so I poured myself water. I know this girl is pretty close behind me, so I hatch a plan. As I turn around, I pretend to trip, spilling my water all over her. Oh, girl. She turns bright purple, yelling at me to wait till my mom hears about this. Oh, she's one of them girls. Sure enough, her mom comes along to see what the altercation was about. Bratty girl tells her mom that I threw water all over her. I then explained that it wasn't like that. I just tripped. I was so sorry. Bitch, you lying. That girl says I'm lying, but her mom says she saw it happen, that it was clearly an accident. She made her daughter apologize to me for getting angry. I then walked away and the girl gave me the evilest eye. She never was mean to me again. I think deep down she knew what I did that day, but knew she couldn't prove it and thought that she was better off not crossing me or my water again. Okay, so a friend of mine
cheated on me, so I pronounced him dead. So I met this guy during my senior year of college. We'll call him Rox. Rox was a great guy. There was nothing fishy about him whatsoever. He always helped me out, talked to me about personal issues most people wouldn't talk about, and I trusted him. I wanted to marry him someday. So one day he took me out to this nice dinner and proposed to me. I guess you could say I was the happiest girl alive. We had this beautiful wedding and legally got married. I was happy. So one day I was scrolling through his phone to get his mother's number because I forgot it and I wanted to ask her something. And then this girl's name popped up. We'll call her Vanessa. I was scrolling through their conversation and he seemed loyal at first, saying he had a wife. But then he gave in and ended up cheating. They sent nudes back and forth and planned to meet. I walked up to him and slammed down the phone in front of him and asked what this was. He told me that he was sorry and he could explain, and I said no. I ran out of the house and decided to stay at my girlfriend's for a bit. He texted me back a large paragraph saying he wanted to explain the reasons why he was cheating on me, claiming he wasn't justifying it. And you will not believe what he said. Come back for part 2. So he texted me wanting to explain the reason why he cheated. He said he cheated on me because I take way too much time with work and I'm so busy with college that he was feeling lonely. I asked him, why didn't you just address it with me first? He said he was too scared to in fear of losing the relationship. I didn't really know what to do at this point, but I knew I needed to distance myself in order to forgive him for a while. So I came back home the next day. Me and him sat down and talked about it, and we came up with a conclusion that he would get hobbies and spend more time with his friends so he wouldn't feel as lonely. I work in a morgue, and I do makeup on deceased people's faces. I told him I was going on a vacation to forgive him and that I needed to forgive him in order to continue this relationship, and he said okay. So I ended up going with my friend and we ended up having a ton of fun. I completely forgot about the whole entire problem and I was ready to forgive him. But then I got a DM from some random girl and she said, hey, are you dating Rox? And I said, yeah, why? She sent me a picture of a pregnancy test and a screenshot of messages between him and her, and you will not believe what happened next. Come back for part 3. So she sent a picture of a pregnancy test and messages between him and her. What he was saying was absolutely disgusting. He was saying how he loved her and how he was happy that she was having a baby. And he also said that he planned on leaving me anyways. I told her thank you for informing me and I'm so sorry she had to go through this. She also apologized as well and said thank you for not coming at me. She told me she had no idea that he was in a relationship, especially since she specifically asked if he was single or not, and she showed me the text messages to prove that. So that's when I came up with the plan. I ended up making him a fake death certificate. So I ended up showing the landlord and he gave me the lease in my name. I moved his stuff out into the hall and I changed all the locks. He was staying at that girl's place, so she helped me plan everything out. The next day he tried to come inside. He realized he couldn't. I left him a note outside explaining what had happened, and I told him to go live with his baby mama. He kept spamming my phone, banging on the door, trying everything he could to possibly get in contact with me. I just cut him off because I knew my self-worth. Always know your self-worth when it comes to cheating partners and never stay in the relationships. Cheaters are always cheaters. Follow for more story times.